Hello everybody, welcome back to Tavian's World of Reptiles. I hope you all are having a fantastic day. I'm hanging out with Rafiki today. So you guys know how I often talk about how I think it's important for your snakes to be allowed to come out and roam and do their thing because it's good for their mental health as well as their physical health. So one of the things I have yet to talk about is exactly how do you prepare your space for allowing your snakes to roam. And that is what we are talking about today. One of the first things I think you need to consider when you are doing this is exactly where your snake's enclosures are. If your snake's enclosures are somewhere like a living room, you would probably want to open your doors like I do and just let your snake out, because your living room is typically connected to all the other areas of your house, right? And when you're letting your snake roam, sometimes you may need to walk away, whether that's to use the bathroom, to go and answer the door, anything like that. And the fact of the matter is, if you leave your snake in the living room, depending on how fast your snake is, you can go do that thing and come back, and then you have no idea where your snake is. And it's not just in the living room, it could be anywhere in your house at this point. So when it comes to that, if your snake is in your living room, I suggest finding a very specific location where you can actually have your snake roam. So maybe you want to think about maybe a bathroom. It is small, it's closed off, it's isolated. You can set up some nice climbing stuff, or there might be stuff that's already in there for them to do their climbing stuff on and still be safe. Or, like my case, a bedroom. My whole reptile room is my bedroom. But if your reptile is in your living room, you can bring your reptile into your bedroom and then allow it to free roam. So that might be a space that might be smaller, more condensed, and you can close the door and keep the snake in that space. So if you did have to walk away to use the bathroom or whatever it is you need to do for a few moments, you can leave your snake in that space and know that when you come back, that snake is in that specific location and you don't have to go looking all over your house wondering where your snake could be at. Next thing is, once you've chosen your space, you really want to take time to look over that space really well. You want to look around the baseboards, you want to look through along all the walls, you want to look along all the ceiling areas and anywhere that your snake could possibly reach, and make sure that there are no holes or cracks that your snakes could get into and then get into the foundation of your house where you may or may never see them again. Because, you know, they can get into any tiny little hole. It doesn't even matter. You think your snake can't fit into something, and they'll find their way into it. So even if it looks like it's too small for your snake to fit in, block it up. Clog it up with something, whether that's with a piece of cloth, or if you got to drywall it, whatever you need to do to block that hole, that needs to happen. Because snakes are very intuitive, and they will get into any freaking tiny space that you allow them to get into. And so definitely thoroughly overlook your space and make sure that there are no holes for them to get into. In this room, actually, as I was getting everybody moved in, I had thought I looked around pretty well and thought everything was pretty good, and I was letting my snakes roam one night while I was still putting some stuff away. And as I was putting stuff away on my bookshelf, I got further and further down on my shelves, and once I got down to the bottom one, I was looking under there, and there's actually two solid strips of space on either side of the bookshelves that are just open, and behind that wall is a very huge crawl space, attic-like space that we just kind of keep junk in that we don't really have a space for right now. And so that's just a direct route straight into the foundation of the house, and I would lose my snakes. So I'm super glad that I actually came across that before my snakes did. So I was able to put a bunch of clothing, like a bunch of old t-shirts, and clog those holes up really tight so that the snakes are not able to get in there. While I was down there, I also realized that underneath the bookshelf, though I thought I had looked like it was pretty solid, I actually got down there and I realized there's about like that much space between the floor and the bookshelf, which also leads right down and into that crawl space. So I had to tuck a blanket really tight in there and then threw another blanket on top of that just so that the snakes wouldn't get super intuitive and really start trying to push at it. Not that they could push through it, I just wanted to make sure it was extra safe. So those are the type of things you really want to look out for, because that's how you can lose your snake super easily when you're doing this. Even when you think that your snake is too big to get through something, they will find a way. I promise you, do not ever take a chance on ignoring a hole that you think is too small. Now, that also includes under your doors. As you can see on the door behind me, there's a crack there. There's my finger. There it is, right there. You can see that? Yeah. Shere Khan likes to get up under that crack and go on little adventures. So I have to definitely make sure I have a blanket that I keep at my door at all times. It's actually on the other side of the door right now. But in the morning when I open my doors and I let my snakes come out and roam, I will tuck that blanket real tight under that crack so they cannot go in and out of there, and I don't have to worry about losing them when they're out roaming. If I'm not paying attention right away, if I'm like on my YouTube watching videos, sometimes I'll do that. I'll just watch videos while they're roaming, and they can't just like go under the door while I'm not paying attention, because Shere Khan has done that. I didn't realize how small that crack was, or how big that crack was, but he can definitely get out of there. So, and Shere Khan's not even like my smallest snake. Would I ever let like little Mushu roam? Absolutely not. That thing is so tiny. I don't even think I'm capable of of stuffing all the cracks that snake could actually get into. So this is not to say let all of your snakes roam. When you have a snake that is that tiny, I definitely would not suggest letting it roam. The smallest snake that I do let roam is actually Toph, my rainbow boa, as well as Skellington, my Amazon tree boa. They're both very tiny, but I don't let them roam like around the whole room like I let all the other ones do, because they're still very small. But I do have an upper high space. Since they're both arboreal anyway, I'm sure that's the most comfortable space for them to be, so they get to really do their stretching out and their climbing thing up there, and so then I get to watch them and keep an eye on them, and they never really try to come down to the ground. So it's really cool to have that space for them to do. The really tiny snakes would probably always stay in your hand. I would not suggest even taking a chance with really tiny snakes. You know, Iroh has gone on a little bit of an adventure sometimes when I was cleaning his enclosure, and I turn around and he's gone off a lot faster than I thought he would, and I just kind of look around, look into my enclosures, and I usually find him, because he's a small snake, but he's not a super small snake, if you know what I'm saying. So you know, those are just things that you really want to consider. Anything that your snake can get out of, you really want to just clog up all those holes, block your under door. Like I said, I have a blanket that I actually use for both sides of my doors. If I'm in the room, it's on this side stuffed in, but if I leave the room, I take it on the outside and I stuff it on the door so that the snake can't get out, because obviously I can't stuff it from the other side. So, you know, I'm always thinking about where my snakes are and if they can get out of anything. It's super important to consider all of these things if you really want to have a healthy roaming space for your snake. Another thing you might want to consider, like I said, is your snake size. If it's too small, probably not letting it free roam is the thing to do. Not do it. And if it's really large, you might want to consider that space. Artemis, my huge boa, like I really gotta watch her when she's out, because if she really gets adventurous and really gets the need of climbing, I have to really watch where she's climbing, because she's big enough to pull everything off. She's big enough to knock over my tubs. She's big enough to knock over my tarantulas. So when she's out free roaming, I really have to watch her. And if I leave the room, I will only leave the room if I know that she's in a space where she's not going to start climbing on something and knocking it down. And even then, I leave the space for a very short period of time when she's out, because she's so big that her climbing is actually pretty destructive of some things. So you know, I just don't have the space for that. Later on, when I have a reptile room, you know, I can definitely make more space for her to climb that won't knock everything off. But you know, as of now, I just have to really watch her. So yeah, I hope you guys like this video. I hope that was helpful enough for you. You know, just when you're making a space for your snake, it's important to think about all the safety features. You know, if your snake's enclosure is in the living room, find another space that you can actually take the snake from the enclosure and let roam. Do not just let it roam the living room, because you're more likely to lose your snake that way and have a heck of a time searching your entire house for your snake rather than searching for it in a very small space. Check your spaces, check your cracks, check for anything that your snake can get into and cannot get out of. You would hate to lose your snake into the foundation of your home. And check your doors, make sure they're nice and blocked. Realize the size of your snakes. Think about whether free roaming in this sense is healthy for that snake. If it's a very small snake, probably not. If it's a very large snake, consider your surroundings. Is it going to be safe for that snake to really do its thing without you watching it 100% of the time and really dictating where it goes? And if not, how can you create a space for that bigger snake to roam that's not going to be disruptive to your whole home or any other animals that you may have. So, I'm sorry, I started to stutter right here in the end because it's late in the day, and I've had a long day and a long weekend actually, so I'm going to get off of here now. This is Rafiki, and this is TWR, and we are checking out. You guys love yourselves, love your reptiles, and keep spreading those herbs.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face, tell me that you love me.